Welcome to Indie Authors Tell All, where independent voices take the mic. This podcast is for those engaged in or interested in independent publishing, from writing to marketing and everything in between.
We're here to shine a light on real-world challenges and successes in independent publishing, straight from the people making it happen.
Every other week, we chat with Bay Area Independent Publishers Association members and industry professionals who are shaping the future of publishing and redefining what it means to go indie.
I'm Becky Parker Geist.
I'm Judy M. Baker.
And I'm Mike Van Horn.
Real stories, real challenges, real inspiration. Now, let's dive into what it takes to write, publish, and market your book, one story at a time.
So welcome to the Indie Authors Tell All podcast. I'm a member of the Bay Area Independent Publishers Association, and in fact, I'm a past president. But today, I have the privilege of interviewing one of our most creative members, and we don't have a lot of children's book authors and editors in our group. So Karin Fisher-Golton stands out. And she's going to tell us all about her publishing journey, what she does in the world for other authors, and probably a few little tidbits about herself, too. So, Karin, welcome. How are you doing today?
Hi, thank you so much for having me here. I'm good, and I'm looking forward to talking to you. I've been a member of BAIPA for, oh my gosh, maybe almost 15 years, and I just love it. So I'm so glad to be here.
Oh. I mean, I was trying to think when we first met, and yeah, I guess time flies because your son was a munchkin when you joined, and now you just told me he's 21.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. It was just after unfortunately, I didn't find it while I was in the process of publishing the first book, but just after, and it's been so great. So it would have been 2013. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, we joined not too far apart because I joined in 2011, and I just have found it to be, it's a fun organization. I've learned so much. I've met incredible people like you. And well, your first book, why don't you tell us a little bit about that? Because with My Amazing Day, and if you have one.
Oh, sure.
Yes. So model how you hold up your book.
Well, yes, something I learned in BAIPA.
That is so good. Now, I didn't even realize that was a crowdfunding project. So would you tell us a little bit about that and how that all worked out for you?
Yeah. So this book, there's a couple unusual things about the path. I've self-published 2 books and they have very different paths. But that one, it was not my idea. I partnered with 2 people, Elizabeth Iwamiya, who's a designer, and Lori Chung, who's a photographer. So they had the idea after Elizabeth's daughter was born, we'd like to have a book to help babies and toddlers start lifetime habits of gratitude.
No.
And they came to me with that idea. Now, at that point, I'd been writing children's books for a while, and sometimes people would come up to me and say, I have this idea, maybe we could work on it together. And usually I'd be like, well, that's nice, but I have my own ideas. But this one, I loved it because gratitude has meant so much to me. And I loved the idea of the challenge of how to make that meaningful for such a very young audience. So I said yes. So that was an unusual thing. And then the other thing is that, a couple things. We were clearly going to self-publish this book because we had the photographer, the designer, and the writer. As you know, if you submit to a traditional publisher, they're going to assign an illustrator. They have the designer. So that was clearly a self-publishing process.
Right.
Now, because this book is for babies and toddlers, and it's about, I started with the wonder and the world and giving words to it. And then we get into habits by rituals. So just thank you for each thing in the day and naming those things. And And so I felt that it needed to be a board book. I'm going to hold it up again. It's this kind of book with the thick pages so that really little children can hold them in their hand. They get to start to use their motor skills to learn how to turn pages, and they're not going to rip them. But board books cannot be done by print on demand.
Oh,
Yes. So that meant we needed to raise a chunk of money to do a big print run. And so for that reason, we decided to do crowdfunding. So that's how we got to crowdfunding,
okay.
because we needed a chunk of money to do a print run. And it worked perfectly to do the kind of crowdfunding where if you set a goal and you have to make that goal to get the money, because either we were going to have enough for our print run or we weren't.
Right.
Yeah. So that's how we got into crowdfunding.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Was there anything different about doing a crowdfunding campaign than any other kind of promotional campaign for your books? What would you say would be the difference?
Well, crowdfunding, first, it had these big stakes because the book wasn't going to exist unless we had unless we made that. But crowdfunding, it was so valuable in ways we wanted to make that money so we could make this a go, and we did, and that was wonderful. But what I didn't realize was that it was going to give me this big head start, because we had to reach out to people and reach out to groups we thought we would be interested in. And we got this very direct feedback, like send a note, make a message, and you see those numbers go up or you don't. So I just learned so much about how to get people excited about this book, who would be excited about this book, and in addition, created a group of people that wanted this book to be in the world that ended up being really helpful later. So crowdfunding had so many benefits.
Well, I like that. And you have to do a marketing campaign. If you want people to find your book, you have to do a marketing campaign. So why not do it up front so that you already know people want that book in their hands? So I applaud you on that. How did you go about figuring out what the costs were going to be, including, of course, shipping and anything else that you were, offering to people?
So, that was small. The big expense was going to be printing. Since that was the big thing was, where were we going to print it? Who was going to print it? How many were we going to print? That was the big chunk. Everything else was kind of small, but yeah, we had different packages where, a signed book or a set of books so people could give them away. We ended up making some greeting cards. So that was another gift. So yeah, so we just calculated out what it would cost. Yeah.
Oh, how lovely. Well, I'm wondering then so your second book is a completely different genre, correct?
Yes, within children's books. Yes.
Okay. So that one is called The Clock and the Boulder.
Yes.
That's a very curious title. Where did that come from?
All right. And I will hold this up in my away by my head, The Clock and the Boulder. For people who can't see it, it's a time travel novel. And if you could see it, you would see there's a boulder in the middle and there's a girl on one side with a tie-dye shirt like the modern times, and a girl down below looking kind of frightened with old-fashioned type clothing, because this is a time travel novel.
Ooh.
Yes.
What inspired you about that one? And what did you have to do some research so that it was accurate, the historical accuracy of the book?
Well, that book was really like the very roots of it were when I was a teenager. My grandma got me to help her with genealogy, and that started a lifetime interest in genealogy. And I think it's just because there's little hints of stories, And so I was a teenager then, and I'm like the family historian, and it does inspire lots of books. But there was my like 6 times great grandmother from the 18th century, there was a little note that said Maya could read her own books. And I was like, that just stuck with me, that a note like that would survive all these years. I still don't know exactly what it means, but so that stuck with me. And so many, many years later, after I'd had years of being and writing lots of children's books and manuscripts, but I'd focus mostly on shorter things, and I wanted to try a novel. So I had sort of percolated into my head, what will the novel be? And in 2008, so before My Amazing Day was published in 2013, so this is a long time ago. In 2008, I had an opportunity to visit Sweden with that, which is that part of that history that was with my parents and my son, who was 3 at the time. And when we were figuring out where to go, we discovered there was a farm that had been in our family for over 300 years. And that concept, like one family in the same place for 300 years, it's so different from my current, more current family history. It just blew me away. And we got to visit there. As we were leaving, we saw a boulder. We just had to stop for a moment, and I looked out the window. There was this boulder, and something about it. I went, oh, and now it all connects. It's part of the story. But I think what it was just realizing that for a boulder, 300 years is like nothing.
Yeah.
It got me thinking about time, and it was the start of the idea of a time travel novel. And the idea of a girl from modern day who's just so tired of moving. My protagonist, her mother's a professor, so she's moving all around the country. So she's just so tired of it. And it's hard for her. And so she's in the latest place she's trying out, not making friends because she doesn't want to have to lose them.
Oh.
And she finds out about a very similar farm that's been in her family for 300 years, and through a little moonlight magic ends up back there and meets this girl inspired by my ancestor who has bigger ideas than a farm, who would love to get beyond it. So they have sort of opposite motivations, and they're there together, and my character needs to relearn the art of friendship because she really needs some help. And then they're on an adventure to figure out how to get her back to her own time together. So that's how it started.
So did you research your family's history, or did you go into history of the period? What influenced that part of the book?
Well, both. I mean, my family's history was the inspiration, and it was great that I had been to that farm, so I had a real vision of it. And there were so many things with the research where I was lucky. It just so happens that right next to that farm is a homestead museum that has like things of how people used to live. So I literally got to see the forests are very important because they had all these woods, and so I got to see the wooden buckets and the wooden pitchforks, as they used wood for things that we didn't. So those were little pieces of details of life. And then in addition, there's a historian named Wilhelm Moberg. He wrote a series called The Emigrants that was made into movies.
With Liv Ullmann. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I remember it sort of.
Yeah. So I was very lucky because he is a historian. He's written a wonderful book on the history of Sweden from the people's perspective, not the rich people. Yeah. That was super helpful. So I was reading that. But then I knew as a historian, his fiction, I could kind of trust some of the details.
Yeah.
So I had that. I had a really cool thing where I, at one point, sort of deeper into my research, bounced some things off of a museum curator in Sweden. And he alerted me, or he made me aware of a painter from that same era and time period. So now this is something I'll always remember for research, because by looking at his paintings, I'm getting to see what it looked like in that time period. So there was that, plus all the like books about Swedish shoes, books about Swedish costumes. But yes, all that.
Oh, that is so marvelous. Well, it's funny because you and I were talking a little bit about my Toastmasters group right before we started. And the leader of our group is Swedish. And so she travels back and forth all the time. She lived in Switzerland. She's lived all over the world. And So she brings in these little tidbits now and then, and we all just love it because it's a different experience. And I bet you had fun finding out all of those different, parts and pieces. And I think too, mentioning paintings, that was really a way that they documented who was married to who, how old people were, where they lived, their manor houses, and even less wealthy people. That was, because I didn't have cameras yet. So that makes a lot of sense. But what a joyful way to travel back in time and to honor your past as well. Wow, that is so cool. Well, I have another question for you
Hmm.
because I know you edit children's books too. How did you get into that? And why is it so valuable to have someone like you, if you are writing a children's book, as, having your editorial capabilities? What's different about editing children's books?
Well, the way I got into that was through BAIPA. Yay, BAIPA. Like I said, towards the end of the process with my amazing day, I joined BAIPA and just had got so much great help and in the process. And yeah, I love BAIPA. But at the meetings, I noticed as we know, BAIPA there's author publishers, but there's also people who provide services for author publishers.
Right.
And there were editors, but I noticed that there was no children's book editor.
Mm-hmm.
And that was when I got thinking that it is important to have someone who knows children's books especially I think for children's books for a few reasons. One, even though we were all children and we can think like, I was a child once, our brains literally change. They don't sort of solidify into our adult brains until the early 20s.
Right.
And so the way we learn things changes, the way we experience things, and even the kinds of things that are priorities. So it's really helpful to work with somebody who has a sense for that. And some of my professional background is I got an elementary school teaching credential earlier in my life. Not only had a wonderful children's literature course, but I learned a lot about how children learn.
Yes.
So, yeah. And in addition, another special thing about children's books, we talked earlier about my books are two different genres, but they're both
Right.
children's books.
Yes.
There's so many different kinds of children's books. There's picture books, chapter books, middle grade novels, YA, graphic novels, high-low. And so it's really helpful to have someone that is an expert that knows, what those are, who they are for,
Mhm.
what age range, what reading development
Oh,
range.
yeah.
And so I could see that would be useful. And then I just realized, wow, I could do that. And I would really like to. Because by that point, I'd been in children's books for years, in all kinds of critique
Mhm.
groups. And in my professional life, like I said, I'd worked with children, which was really helpful. But I'd also done a lot of writing things and a lot of editing. And
Right.
so yeah, and as you know, some editors focus more on the copy editing, grammar
Right.
detailed, and others on the structural editing, big picture. And
Mhm.
I had done a lot with both, and so I do both, which I love. I really like using both those parts of my brain.
Yes.
I just saw it kind of come together.
Yeah.
And also in my life, I'd really spent a lot of time on learning how to really listen to people and what's important to them. And I think that's a really important part of being an editor is supporting people in their vision.
Mhm.
And so I just could see that all these things came together. And so I hung up my virtual shingle, which is I made a website and announced it at BAIPA, announced it at places I learned that I could announce it through BAIPA.
Yeah.
And the people just started coming, and it's been great. I love it. I love supporting people in their dreams and their creative process.
I love hearing a story like that because I think that's one of the gifts I think of our organization and ones that are similar is we go on an adventure and learn things and then we share them and learn that, oh yeah, I can bring somebody else up to speed who doesn't have the experience I do. And it's interesting because you have a background in, in learning and child development, as and Becky does too. And that was where she started, getting involved with books as well. And the whole way of working with people, so if I was a new client with you, what would we be doing first? And I know your listening skills are very critical. So let's pretend I'm going to write a children's book, which I don't think I really am. But if I was, if I might, I still might. But if I was, what would our first step be?
Well, you would if you reached out to me and said, "Hey, I've got this children's book and I'm looking for an editor." The first thing I do, like I said, because I do think the author's vision and their goals are so important, and what my job really is to support that, to take what that vision is and help them make it effectively reach children. Um,
Hmm.
and so, yeah.
Okay. Because I'm imagining there are some adults who think they're writing a children's book, but it's really not a children's book.
Yes,
Yes.
or they think they're writing for 5-year-olds, but they're really writing for 10-year-olds or vice versa,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but, it's really important that they have a vision, they have something inspiring them, and I feel like that's the most important thing, is to help them fulfill that.
Yes.
So my first step is to have a conversation with them to understand their goals, and that I don't charge for that. And, ideally, they'll send me their manuscript so I can see where it is so we can really discuss it. And so we just have a phone conversation and we talk about, what are their goals for the book? What are their goals for their writing career? Is this the start of being a children's book author, or is it just like one book that is supporting something else they're doing?
Right.
And that's what I need to understand to know what to do for them. And then after that, I make a proposal and an estimate, or sometimes a few choices, and they can decide what to do. But in addition, I think a nice thing about that call is we get to know each other a little bit, because it's such a personal thing. Your creations are your babies, so we need to talk to each other and know who we are, and then they can decide what they want to do.
Well, I would feel very comfortable referring people to you if they are working on children's books. And as you said, there are so many different flavors of children's books. It's not just because you've got kids kind of before they're learning to read and when they're learning to read. And then, so they're different lengths, and there's a lot there. And I think the fact that, well, funniest thing is I was listening to another podcast. Big surprise. I really like the novel marketing podcast with Thomas Umstattd Jr. And he was interviewing an author who writes manga, and he's an American. He's not Japanese. But what it's turned out is more people are buying that genre now. And it is a separate genre because it's not really a comic book, but it kind of is, but it's really is, storytelling. And apparently there is such a craving for inspirational outcomes where you can really tell there's a good guy and a bad guy in it, that people are reading it, even if they never read comic books before. And that traditional publishing is not catching on yet. But the manga sales have just been going through the roof. And I think it's even funnier. I happen to be watching the series, The One Piece, which is based on a manga novel. It is outselling Superman. And again, it's a whole different genre. So, you've got all kinds of things to be thinking about when you're working with people. And I bet that keeps it very lively and very entertaining for you too.
Yes. Yeah, it's very interesting. And um okay, I'm just having a manga is like a graphic novel, right?
Yes, it's the Japanese style where and too, you read them from back to front because the language doesn't it goes from right to left. Yeah, it is. It is. And I'm trying to think, well, the K-pop Demon Hunters, which just had a big breakout, that was based on manga. But we've got all kinds of things that are being inspired by that type of I'm going to call them graphic novels. I mean, manga is specific to um, Asian influenced writing, but we've got movies, we've got television series that are spin-offs from that. And but I've seen other people writing not just for kids but for adults using the graphic novel format. So, you know, I'm just kind of fascinated by these changes that are showing.
Well, I thought that that's what it was, but I just want to make sure I wasn't.
Oh yeah, I'm not talking politics. I'm talking
Yeah.
manga. Yes.
Yeah, but oh gosh, no. But I wanted to graphic novels are actually really taking off in the world of children's books. And they're a really great way for well, I think children are very visually oriented. They're kind of a nice bridge. But they are getting really, really popular. Yeah.
As an author, you know that writing a book is not easy, and that publishing and promoting it can be even harder. Wish you had fellow authors and professionals you could learn from, who would give you encouragement and guidance to get through the tough spots? That's what we offer at the Bay Area Independent Publishers Association, or BAIPA. We're a volunteer-run educational community dedicated to elevating the art and the business of independent publishing. Not in the San Francisco Bay Area? No worries. We have members from all over, and we meet monthly on Zoom. For just $10 a month, you get full membership benefits. Whether you're writing your next novel or children's book, launching a nonfiction book, building your author brand, or working with indie authors, BAIPA gives you the tools and the network to publish smarter, grow faster, and thrive independently. Visit BAIPA.org. That's BAIPA.org and join us today. Become part of a community that understands all the challenges of indie publishing and helps you get through them.
Well, I'm going to ask you some questions about your experience being a BAIPA member, and you've told us a little bit about it. But is there a favorite part of our meetings for you? Maybe tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. I do have a favorite part. Well, I mean, they're all great, but yes, as we know, the beginning is the question and answers, where we can ask questions and get answers, and that's the first part, and then the third part is the speaker. But it's the second part that I think is just really brilliant, and that's when, as the BAIPA members know, we introduce ourselves. Have a little short time, maybe 25 seconds, and I just think it's so brilliant. I mean, first of all, it's a tricky skill and it's an important skill to be able to say who you are and what you do in a really short time. And so as a BAIPA member, we get to practice that every month and we get to see what other people are doing. So just that is great. But in addition, and I think this is part of why BAIPA works so well for me, is you get to find out a little bit about other people and see, I have always found, like, going to big meetings, it's hard to really connect with people, and it's hard to start a conversation. But at BAIPA, because we have those introductions, you get to hear what everybody's doing and go, oh, I want to talk to that person. They have something they could maybe tell me. I have something I could maybe tell that person. Oh, we have this in common. And so you get to have your little list and then go up to someone and say something meaningful to them. And I think that's why BAIPA has been so great for me, that I've really gotten to know people and form relationships where we help each other because I have the little clues.
Oh, I am so glad you brought that up. And I'm with you 100% on that. So many times, you can tell the newer people because they tend to ramble. And instead, they'll tell you all the things that you could find out later. But when you've got 25 seconds to say who you are, what you're working on, maybe the title of your book, or if you're offering a service, you've got to be very, very focused. And that skill will carry you when you're meeting people in other situations. If you're on a podcast, you need to think about sound bites, little short snippets. And my feeling is this too. If someone can't tell me what their book is about in one sentence, they don't know what their book is about. I don't need to hear, pages and pages. I want to know what's the setting, who's in it, why would I be interested? And you always do such a beautiful job, and I so appreciate it. But I agree with you. Being in a room full of people, because we used to only meet in person. Now we do hybrid meetings, and twice a year we get together in a physical room. I have met some of the most interesting people I have ever encountered in my entire life, and you never know what brought people to the table as a writer, because they might have, we've had photographers, we've had builders, we've had journalists, all kinds of things. And I just love the fact that we all can get together and help each other. And thank you for pointing that out, because I do think that's important. Very important.
Yeah.
Well, as we're wrapping up, is there anything we haven't covered that you'd like to share with us that could help the audience members? And oh, by the way, you don't have to live in Northern California to be a member of BAIPA. Because we meet on Zoom, you can live anywhere in the world. We're location independent, but of course, twice a year, if you can make it to Novato, we want to see your face bright and shiny in the room. So, Karin, I'm going to just turn it over to you and zip it up.
I will say that at the heart of our books is our writing, and my quick tips of what you can do to make your writing better. And so and there's sort of two words, but I'll expand a little bit. But the basic things are write and read. And I mean, number one, writing, like anything else, if when we want to get better at something, we need to practice. And so it's great, of course we want to write our books and revise and all that, but any kind of writing, just when you're writing an email and thinking, how can I say this more clearly? You're thinking about how to do your writing. And probably one of the things that the thing that I think has helped my writing the most is that I have an online poetry group. And it was 13 years ago, a lot of things happened in that time period for me. We started writing a poem a day in February. And when we first had the idea, it seemed like, whoa, what a crazy idea. Is that possible? But now we just do it. In February, I just start to see poems everywhere. But poetry, and I know you're a poet too, Judy. So
Yes.
you know this. Like, you're thinking about the sounds of words, the meanings of words, the connections. And so just writing lots of poetry, I feel like that's helped my writing more than anything. So write is number one. And then read, read good books in your genre. And I think consciously, and once you're a writer, consciously, you'll start noticing things about, oh, what are they doing with structure? What are they doing with voice? But I also think unconsciously, you'll be getting a sense of like the pacing of the books and when something is needed, when it isn't, which can apply to your own writing. I know when I was writing my novel, I was writing along and being like, okay, something needs to happen. It's like, and okay, now I need to calm down a little for a little bit, like that's from reading a lot.
Oh gosh. That is just perfect advice. And for those of you who haven't tried poetry recently, we're both going to invite you to give it a shot. And there's so many, talk about genres and subgenres within a genre. With poetry, I think what we all grew up with in the United States in school is such a small, snitchy little slice of it. And as an adult, when I started writing poetry, opened up a whole different avenue. Even though I started my whole process of writing by writing poetry, now I just adore using fewer words. You can tell a whole story in a few lines. And if you don't think that makes you a better writer, I don't know what you're thinking, because every word has to earn its spot. It's like on a bookshelf in a store. Every book has to earn its place, and each word is important. It has value, and you're telling a story in a shortened form, but sometimes those poems can be the inspiration for a longer piece, but you're getting the idea out and then going from there. So I love that you're doing that. Have you published any of your poetry?
I have a few of my poems have been published in anthologies for adults. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
But I wanted to add, I love what you were just saying about every word has its place. And I think in poetry also you get that like words can do multiple jobs, right? They can be alluding to other things, and they can have sounds that are lovely. And, which kind of word for, angry or run or joy are you going to use?
yeah.
And how does it connect to the others? Yeah. So,
Oh, I
yeah.
think
And I also like your point that poetry, yeah, it's not just rhyming and rhythm. And, there's so many kinds of forms and poems.
yeah.
And for the children's book, well, really for anyone out there, I'm going to mention there's something called Poetry Friday that comes from the children's lit world, but
Oh,
people go into other things. But every Friday there's a whole bunch of blogs where people share their poetry. So if you just search Poetry Friday, you can see these blogs, and they share their poetry or other people's poetry, and you'll see all different kinds of poetry. So that's one way to plug in and see what people are doing with poetry in 2026.
oh, I'm going to check that out because I just adored. I want to get myself into a habit, like you mentioned, of writing more poetry, because when I do, I just feel like I feel more satisfied. And sometimes I don't have time to take a big project on, and poems don't necessarily just all come out at once. So I might jot some lines down, and then I'll go back and tinker with it. And I bet you do too. And I have a friend, she's 96 and a half, and
Ooh,
she just had another book launch
awesome.
because she's a poet, and she's one of the best poets ever. This is Fran Claggett Holland. And Fran's work is amazing, and she's been the godmother of poetry for a whole cadre of people, and we've done celebrations of her, and then the people who she taught came up and read poems. Some were, an ode to Fran, and some were influenced by her. But to see that lineage, kind of move out, I'm so excited about it. It's very, very wonderful, and I'm glad I'm part of it. Unfortunately, I didn't get to take classes with her, but I've been to enough events where she's spoken and done things that I feel like by just being in the room, I'm absorbing all these great poetry molecules.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, I was gonna say, when you were saying dig different lengths and types of poems,
Yeah.
when I do the poem a day in February, yeah, there's some days that it's like, this is gonna need to be a haiku day, but I'm gonna have some
Yeah.
night. But then I'm still like thinking about the words, those are so great. Really, every word counts when you've got your 5, 7, 5 syllables. And then there's other days when like just something's going on in my life, and like we know from our life, it can just be so helpful to write a poem. And yes, and ideally I do the first draft in the morning so that over the day I can tinker with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh boy, that is so cool. Well, Karen, we want to let people know how to get in touch with you, because I think there's some children's book authors out there who need your help as an editor. So why don't you tell people how they can connect with you?
The best way to connect with me and find a little more out about me is my website, which is karinfishergolton.com. There's a hyphen in the Fisher-Golton, so it's all smushed together, including the hyphen. And I've got, it's my author and editor website. And so, yeah, I've got a whole section about editing and what I do. And I've got my links to my books. And I've also got something else. The blog. I've got a blog there. So some of my poetry is posted there, plus other stories and things like that. So, and in addition, if you want to keep in touch with me, with what I'm doing with my writing and editing, I have an email list. Thanks to BAIPA, I know to have one, especially Judy's a great encourager. And my email list is about once a month. Like you will not be inundated, but you'll get my news. Judy would maybe say I should be writing more, but anyway, I'm writing. Keeping out. Okay.
Has to be your rhythm.
Thank you. Okay. So, but I write when I have news. So anyway, if you go to my website, you'll see a link to that too. And that's a good way to keep up.
Oh, and for those of you who are listening and not watching us on YouTube, Karin's name is Karin. So that will help you too. And whenever you are introducing yourself, give people a reason to remember your name. And if you have an unusual spelling, that's helpful for you to stand out, but they might not find you.
So, well, there will be show notes. There will
be show notes.
Yeah. And the Fisher part is no C. But, if you search My Amazing Day or The Clock in the Boulder, you will find me.
I love it. Oh, yeah. Karin, this hasn't been enough time. I just so enjoy being around you. And I'm going to tell the truth. When she walks into the room, you feel happy. She always walks in with a big smile. And I know that she's there to help other authors succeed. And thank you for being part of the Indie Authors Tell All podcast. And I can't wait to see one of your poems or more and your books. So thanks again. And I hope you all will come again. And if you like our show, please subscribe and put a comment or two in. You can find us audio or video. So on YouTube, you'll find us, and you'll also find us wherever you listen to podcasts. So thanks again. And with that,
you are very welcome. Thank you for having me and making this very easy.
Well, thank you.
Thanks for listening to Indie Authors Tell All, a podcast from the Bay Area Independent Publishers Association.
Be sure to subscribe so you never miss our bi-weekly conversations with authors, publishers, and experts who keep indie publishing vibrant.
You can learn more and join our community at BAIPA.org. That's BAIPA.org. You don't have to live in the Bay Area to join us, since we're live on Zoom for all our events. You can email your questions and feedback to us at podcast@BAIPA.org. That's podcast@BAIPA.org. Thanks so much for joining us on the Indie Authors Tell All podcast.